welcome to Decision Makers, the show where we dig into what it takes to run a town. Today I am sitting down with Councillor Parrott. How are you doing today?
Having a great time. Life is good.
It is. We've just been kind of chatting here as we're getting ready. We've got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, but let's start with just a little bit about you and just how you came to be involved in the town and in the, we're going to be talking about NADCO, so in the town and NADCO.
Okay, my journey started with the late Roy McGilvery in the Brahma Grill, and he asked me to run.
Okay.
And since then, my journey has been very good because I've been involved in things that I was good at and involved in already. So, segue into NADCO, Neepawa Area Development Corporation. It's one of my more active files, and it has been around since 1961.
Okay.
And it started off with a group of shareholders with a dream, and over the years it's evolved into a nonprofit organization that can also do lotteries, which is the farmers lottery that we do to support the clinic.
Right.
But to be run by two councillors from each of the municipalities. And
which municipalities are those?
Okay, so that would be North Cypress, Langford, Glenelg, Lansdowne, Rosedale, and the town of Neepawa.
Right.
So
Okay.
we have 8 of us on there. And it has been involved in quite a few things over the years that people probably never even knew, right? And while going through some of the old archive files, cleaning up the joint, you come across a letter from Mayor Harry Smith talking about a rapeseed processing plant that they were trying to get in Neepawa in 1969.
Okay.
Then you see the Articles of Incorporation with Ruth Hankey and Brent Hunter and Glenda McPhee.
Okay.
Starting the Lily Festival. And
Right, okay.
That's dated February 15th, 2001. And they were in this is between 56 and 61, they were doing basically a survey or analysis of how much power is being used at different grid areas inside the town of Neepawa, and NADCO was involved with providing that information.
So that was one of the earliest probably things that was going on.
Yeah, that was one of the earliest ones. Then there's Dominion Bridge. We understand that a factory building of 80 feet by 130 feet is being planned for Neepawa area and would like to offer us our services. And this was to be a factory to build cabinets. And this was to help out the Thomas Cabinet Works.
Really? Okay.
Really. Now that is a name that still exists in town.
Yep.
And I think Chris...
It's gone through some changes, but it definitely is
Chris
still...
Chris Spies is the current owner. Then this is dated back in, where was that? 1965.
And that's handwritten.
Handwritten. NADCO, letterhead, and they're trying to get a radio station for Neepawa. So they've started work like that a long time ago. And a lot of these things take quite a while to come into fruition. And the interesting one over here, we got Nelson Shoemaker's when he was an MLA. It is with regret that we must advise that the closure of the Neepawa Works, previously announced in June 1968, will become a fact on January 16, 1970. The Canadian Salt Company Limited.
Right, okay. So that is, of course, what later became the Yellowhead Centre.
Correct. And we are all familiar with the economic factors upon which the company's decision to relocate was based. We are confident, however, considering the fine talent available to you, that the effects to your community will only be temporary. We are sure that the separation and retirement arrangements will be made with older transition. And basically, they gave the task to NADCO to decide what to do with the building.
Okay.
So there was a price set at $80,000, and away NADCO goes. And as we know, somewhere along the journey, with a lot of community-minded people involved, NADCO became the Yellowhead Center. Or not NADCO. The salt mine became the Yellowhead Center.
The warehouse became the hall, and I believe they preserved some of the actual processing factory.
You know what? The last time, or previous to that, I was 1970 when I went to visit my great aunt, or great grandma, who lived right across the street from the division office. And all I remember is there was a big building there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you if the stack was still there or not. But
certainly there wasn't an arena at the time. That was brand new put on there.
But so NADCO is something that encompasses the whole area, like Neepawa Area Development Corporation. So it's not something that is just focusing on the town of Neepawa. The projects are for the benefit of everybody in around the whole region. Our economic development officer, Marilyn Crew, has been a gold mine in helping out with NADCO.
Yeah.
We've supported WOLG, which is the Western Opportunities Leadership Group, and we were working towards getting a soybean processing plant in Western Manitoba, and there were certain things that were needed to host that plant, and EDO Crew was able to compile all the data. Well, actually, we already had it because we have Neepawa on a site that is worldwide viewed to show what all our attributes are. So we were prepped and ready. We were one of 4 sites in Western Manitoba that could host the soybean plant. Yeah. So that is still an ongoing issue. Mm-hmm. COVID kind of kicked the snot out of it. Like
many things.
Yeah. With the clinic, I got lucky. I had a super great group called the Beautiful Plains Community Medical Clinic Committee, something like that. And they were already up and running really well. Being NADCO chair, I ended up being on that committee and doing the financial report. And because building is what I do, we renovated the clinic's old part and put the second addition on. We got 8 doctors there. Well, minus 1 because Dr. Graham is done today. Or yesterday. And, but as I was talking earlier, I've got a little task force going for working with Prairie Mountain Health to get more international medical grads coming for doctors and of course nurses. Yeah. But we also look after the building, and a service technician was actually there yesterday, checking out all the mechanical, because now that it is triple filtration and exterior mechanical equipment, it's now above and beyond our knowledge base, so we call in the professionals to look after that. So the clinic can continue to operate safely, and that's an ongoing contract. So that's just a little thing that NADCO looks after now. But originally, when I was not on NADCO, whoever the people were at the time, they made all the arrangements at that time to buy the clinic from Dr. Chapman and set it up as a community clinic whereby doctors could come in without having to pay $200,000 buy-in fee. And now we get doctors being partially trained in Neepawa under the residency program. They get to live in the suites there. And we've had 2 of them come back to be our doctors from that program, and others that have stayed in a rural area. So, you know, that clinic building in itself is really good. The other thing that NADCO's can be involved in is setting up other projects in the community and just hosting them for the community. Yeah. Like at one time, NADCO hosted settlement services, but under the management of Don Wamsley and a great board of directors, we were able to branch them off on their own, so they are run totally separate from NADCO now.
So what would that mean to host them?
To host them, a lot of different entities need to have a government-based host for the financials.
Okay.
Right? So they're, like a group of people come up with a great idea and they want to do it, and there's money involved and money's flowing. So NADCO is an entity that can host that and just be an overseer.
Right.
And so with the community clinic, we have our own checking account. When the lottery funds come in, they go into that checking account and pay off all the expenses and the additions and all that. So it's a government body hosting it, but the doctors themselves, with their own group, they actually manage how the clinic is run.
Okay.
What I'm involved in is the actual building itself, the parking lot and all that kind of stuff, the physical part. The doctor recruitment part is again separate, that's an ongoing thing trying to get. And each of the municipalities kicks money in for that as well.
But I mean, I know NADCO is actively involved in the physician recruitment.
Yeah. Well, and so basically, to me, every person in this region should be involved in that. Anybody they know that's training or looking for a new spot, it's amazing how many people you meet at different entities that you can connect. Like the doctor that I connected with in Winnipeg this last week, I was in on something else. And I like to talk, so I got involved in a good discussion, and now we have a connection to a bunch of international medical grads that are all in Winnipeg.
Which is a fantastic connection to make.
And, we've got Don Wamsley at Settlement Services, who has a connection to all the international talent coming in, and he can connect with all the other agencies in the area, and so we have access to more and more knowledge that way.
Yeah.
So that part's all good.
This isn't just physicians that we're sort of looking at in an overall sense for the town. It is all the supports.
Well, for the town and for the region,
Yeah.
and for the province and for Canada. I mean, like it's all part and parcel. We get doctors that have, let's just use a town. We'll call it Rockton.
Rockton. Okay.
Rockton. That's good. So we set up an international medical grad in Rockton, and they're being mentored by our own physicians, and they write their exams, and then they have their credentials, and at that time they have a return to service agreement, and sometimes the doctors buy out of those return to service agreements and do not stay in the small communities.
Yeah.
The more a small community can make a newcomer feel like they belong, the better the chance you have of keeping them.
Yeah.
And you really got to make the family feel like they belong as well, and give them all kinds of stuff. So we have another group that does that.
Because I think the official name is actually the Recruitment and Retention Committee.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a really good group, and they, it's a little tougher during COVID, but now that COVID restrictions are lifted quite a bit, we'll be able to show them what this area is all about. Show them how great it is. Like being able to go on a quad ride through, somebody's North 40 is an experience a lot of people will never get to have, or a lot of people never even get to go fishing.
Yeah.
Or drive a combine, or,
Oh, I've talked to people who went ice fishing for the first time and were just absolutely delighted,
Especially if you catch a fish. Yeah. So, and we've got kind of kicking around right now a rural training center. And a while back, we put in a proposal to become a LPN training center. We held a meeting at the library, and it was packed. So we thought, shoo in. But the big thing was having a location that met all the priorities of the nurses' college to properly train LPNs and healthcare aides, right? 3,200 square feet. The lab had to be 6-bay lab with all the little pneumatics.
Yeah.
And even like staff room and a lounge for the students, computer room and a major classroom. All these things had to come into play. So we have those plans drawn up, and we've presented them before. And now we're working on, Verdun got this last LPN training program, but we're slated for, I believe it's September of 24.
And I have to imagine we're a prime location.
Oh yeah, we're going to be hitting the ground running. We got a lot of people to train for this area. We got a lot of housing to get ready, which means we've got to bring in more developers for subdivisions and get more housing going, like the CN property. It's a darn good thing that we did do that subdivision. We tried for years to get developers to come in to do it without success. So the town of Neepawa, on a dollar recovery basis, did the subdivision, got it going in the nick of time because now everything's happening at once.
Mm-hmm.
So we were prepared for a big part of the influx, and with all the other housing that is also going on, developers are now coming from Winnipeg and out of province looking at Neepawa and saying this is a good place to be. This is what we should be getting in on the ground floor for.
Yeah. Certainly,
Right.
every time I see a council meeting, there seems like there's another development.
Oh,
going
yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, right now there's, well, even tonight there's going to be a couple of subdivisions on the slate tonight.
Yeah.
And, you know, it could be as simple as taking an existing lot that's in a area designated for duplexes, but doing a subdivision so that each part of the duplex they have their own title.
Right.
So, you know, it's a slam dunk, but it's a procedure that has to happen.
Yeah.
And the good thing about the CN property is, you know, we kept track of everything, so we can now help developers go through a lot of the hoops so that they don't make mistakes.
Right.
Because our rules constantly change. And that's one of the wonderful things about government. Yeah.
And levels of government and changing government and yes, all of this. So a couple of questions just on the fundamental functioning of NADCO. So NADCO does not have its own staff.
No.
So it's just the 8 representatives and then working with the EDO's office.
Working with the, Maryland, yeah.
So is that sort of where a lot of the work, like the functional work on this comes out of, is the EDO's office, or is it a lot of time on the parts of the representatives? Or a little of both?
Well, Maryland works, like our EDO, Maryland works incredibly well with NADCO. The councillors from the other municipalities, we basically have shifted to doing our NADCO meetings right after the clinic meeting because the councillors are there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of handy. And I suppose the administrative part of NADCO, I end up doing that because I'm the chair, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a fruition of ideas between everybody, and you know, I don't know what. I mean, there's work, but the biggest thing is having your ears and eyes open all the time, looking for opportunities, and not turning away from even the smallest of opportunities, because a lot of them lead to bigger ones.
Right.
So that's a question I really can't answer because we're all a team.
Okay. So it basically just comes from everywhere. There's not like a point person where this is the person who's responsible for all the paperwork and all this and all that.
Okay, well that part is me, yeah.
Okay, that's you. Okay.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy. So the other question is, so financially, how does NADCO operate?
Each of the municipalities puts in $2,500 a year for operating expenses.
Okay.
One of the things that we sponsor, of course, is growth of businesses. And so we are a supporter of the What's the Big Idea?
Right.
And, you know, you go to the medical clinic on Mondays and you see one of the winners there. What?
Oh. Yes.
Hearing it, you know, Lisa?
Yes, of course.
Get your ears checked.
Yep.
And, and the great thing about that committee is they know that when Lisa comes in with her trailer, that is a major service being provided to Neepawa.
Mm-hmm.
So we, you know, she's got her own parking spot there with her own plug-in, specific for her to do that for Neepawa. Recently, we got the ultraviolet light booth.
Right. That's right.
And that has been great. It has provided a service. Because, I mean, you go in, you start off at 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you work your way up to 45, and, you know, you keep going up 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm at 2 minutes and 30 seconds now. But can you imagine driving to Brandon 3 times a week for 30 seconds and then for 45 seconds.
And that's what people were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not doing.
Or not doing. That's right.
And
yeah.
so now that it's here, you know, you can swing in, make your appointments, and you're in and out of there very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's a good service for the community. And the doctors took that on as part of a service for the community, not necessarily something to cash flow for them.
Right.
This is a service that they are providing for the community. So, I mean, and that's a win-win for everybody. So,
yeah.
And you think about our doctors group here, you know, we have two clinics, like Dr. Krasaniak is over every Friday for the
Yeah.
round table, and everybody works so well together. They work well with Prairie Mountain Health. We had a well-attended stakeholders meeting, and unfortunately I was doing my own medical thing, so I wasn't able to make that, but it just, you have so many people that cross over in their business interactions and contacts that it's a self-feeding machine.
Yeah.